If your hobbies feel scattered like a burden or almost as though they don't really have much purpose, this is how you can properly manage your multiple interests. Here's a profound idea to start us off. Having multiple interests will feel like a burden if you don't create a vision that integrates them. First objection. What authority do I have in saying this? Well, I am literally just a 22-year-old Irish dude who started writing a weekly newsletter as soon as he finished college as a vehicle for my own learning and my own self-education. You can check out my newsletter, it's over on my Substack, but I use writing my weekly newsletter as my vehicle for managing all of my multiple interests. All of my interests serve writing my newsletter. But if you're not like me, if you're not looking to write online, I still think I have a unique perspective to offer on this topic. This newsletter is for a special type of person, to those who love reading, writing, fitness, personal development, their friends and family and career, but can't seem to give enough attention to any of them. To those who feel like every interest is stealing time from pursuing other ones. To those who feel guilty reading a book when a college deadline is near. To those who train extra sessions in the gym when they know they should really be learning skills that actually will serve their future. Have you ever felt so alienated by super productive people who think that they have solved the problem of focus and motivation, but you just haven't? What about the drain that comes from not knowing what decisions to make or what interests to follow first thing in the morning? There is nothing more debilitating than quietly letting curiosity feel like a source of shame. For the longest time, I always felt like I had a lot less focus than I thought I was capable of. I used to go on lots of walks and I'd listen to productivity gurus online talking about how they could always do 4 times as much output as I could. And I always thought that I was the problem, like I had a focus issue. And because I wasn't moving any needles, I would feel guilty going to jiu-jitsu or seeing my friends or even reading books because I didn't want to give up my limited amount of focus per day on anything but my writing. The real problem here is serving one interest at a time instead of a vision. Most advice on managing multiple interests says to pick one interest, niche down your focus, and don't do anything other than that one interest. And if that advice has ever felt wrong to you, almost like it was designed for a different kind of person, you'd actually be right, because I'm going to show you how I think most productivity advice is biased and what you can do instead that will be a lot better to help you out. The person who loves fitness and reading Greek philosophy and studying Jungian psychology and writing, they are the person most likely to lack a mission that makes every interest feel like they serve one another. And that is what this video, or this newsletter if you're reading it over my Substack, is going to be about. It's going to help you with making every interest feel as relevant and purposeful as possible. Not a single ounce of your time wasted, every interest amplifying each other, and every other one you have. We'll cover the philosophy behind why this works with 3 profound ideas that will change how you think about your own development, and a practical framework or a series of steps that you can start using immediately. By the end of watching this video or reading this newsletter, you will have a clear plan on how to manage all of your multiple interests without the feeling of guilt that comes from being unable to manage any of them. Most interest managing advice is destined to not help you. Most people who are polymathic or deep generalists by nature usually do the following when they're trying to manage multiple interests. They time block each interest, they pick the one main interest that takes total priority, and secretly shelve the rest. They feel guilty about spreading themselves too thin and eventually burn out or drop every interest entirely. This usually happens because most productivity advice is quadrant biased, meaning the advice favors or optimizes one domain of life while letting the other domains atrophy. Specializing on a single interest can be a lot more dangerous than you'd think. Think of the well-educated readers who have read hundreds of books but are socially isolated and don't have anything concrete to show for their knowledge. Think about the full-time business owner earning tons of money, but who has deteriorating relationships and terrible physical health. Or the bodybuilding meathead with a brilliant physique who can't think for himself or hold a conversation for more than 5 minutes. Or the person, or people we all know, who has spent 50 years obsessing about their career, but has no interests, hobbies, or even an identity outside of their life's work. Specialization can make you fragile if you aren't careful. You can probably feel this in your own life, as if something feels off because you're doing well in one or even a few areas of your life, but you're letting other areas quietly decay. If you've ever had a great week of productivity but felt physically drained, or a great week of training but felt like your mind was turning to mush, that's what quadrant bias feels and looks like. Here's a profound concept that you just aren't taught in school, and it's going to completely change how you approach this problem entirely. The AQAL model from Ken Wilber's integral theory is a way of looking at life through 4 dimensions simultaneously. Think of it like this. Most life advice you receive only looks at your life through one perspective. The AQAL model says there are 4 perspectives, and you need to have all of them to see the full picture. And I'm actually going to draw this out just to kind of show you what I mean. Please excuse my really bad drawings. So the AQAL model, it looks like a square. That's a really bad square, but it has 4 quadrants. So we have the Q1 quadrant, the Q2, the Q3, and the Q4. So they're the 4 quadrants. And we have a couple of different ways of dividing up the quadrants or categorizing them, I would say. We have the individual and the collective. Then at the top, we have subjective, and we also have objective. This will all make sense in just a minute. So we'll start with the Q1 quadrant. The Q1 quadrant is going to be your thoughts, your emotions. I'll draw smiley faces and sad faces. And then we can say the mind. So this is going to be your individual world. This is going to be your thoughts, your experiences, your emotions, your desires, your motivations. It's going to be your mind. It's going to be your subjective inner world, your experience of reality, how you experience it inside your own mind. And the Q2 perspective, so this is still on the individual level. This is to do with you, but instead of it being subjective, it's going to be objective. So now we'll think of the physical brain. This would be like biology. Compared to your inner world, we would say biology, your biology. This would be like the mechanisms working inside of your brain that actually create the mind or consciousness or whatever all this, whatever that fucking shit is, man. I don't know what consciousness is. So think of like your physical body or like your nervous, it'd be like your nervous system. It would also be like your hormones and your physical health. Ooh, I can't spell there. So these 2 quadrants are going to be all to do with you individually on a subjective level and on a objective level. But now we want to move to the collective level, which is not going to be just your own thoughts, your own mind, your own emotions, your own nervous system, your own brain, your own physical health. It's going to be everyone's of those things. So the Q3 quadrant is going to be the likes of culture, shared values and beliefs. It's going to be more or less the Q1 quadrant, but for everybody on the planet. You can also think of this as like social norms. So like what society says success actually looks like and how you should be managing multiple interests. And the Q4 quadrant is going to be the physical world. It's going to be the physical world that we all interact with. It'd be like your tools, your living situations, systems, institutions, things like that. That was a lot to take in, but why is this relevant for you to understand? Each quadrant shapes all the other quadrants simultaneously. When a productivity guru tells you to focus on one interest, they're giving you advice from only one quadrant. For that specific use case, it's usually only from the exterior systems-based quadrant, which is this quadrant on the bottom right, which means they're ignoring your inner drive to explore or to be curious, which is quadrant 1. They're also ignoring how your brain learns through encoding and retrieval, and some people are better at encoding and retrieval than other people. That's quadrant 2. And then we also have the third quadrant, which is the culture that makes you feel guilty for not learning as well as people or for not being able to manage your multiple interests based on what everyone else thinks and tells you is right. And that is why most of the advice you can see online about managing multiple interests, it feels wrong. It's not that it is wrong, it's just that it's incomplete. And then once you see this, once you start looking at the AQL model for like anything, you just can't unsee it anywhere. You just see it everywhere. I would recommend exploring the AQL model yourself, looking into integral theory. I think it might be the next video that I'm doing. You'll see in a couple of weeks anyway. But I would like to explore integral theory a lot more and the AQL model because it's very, very interesting and I feel like a lot of people don't know about it. So let me know if you'd like me to write a newsletter on it to give you my personal perspective on it. So now that we can see the problem clearly as to why people struggle with managing multiple interests, here are 3 profound ideas that will reshape how you think about your own interests. The first profound idea is that your interests are a network. This is personally why I think it's very important for people to understand schema theory in learning science. Your brain does not store information like a load of linear notes that look like this. It's not how your brain works. Your brain actually stores knowledge like this. This is what's called a schema in learning science. It looks like that, kind of. You can also call them mental models or mental frameworks. I like to call them schemas. You can call them whatever you like. And this is the same reason as to why isolated information gets dumped by the brain very quickly. So information that doesn't feel connected or integrated to prior knowledge, which is what these little nodes are here. If the information doesn't feel connected in any way, it's just going to have nowhere to fit into your scheme of knowledge inside your head. You're not going to be able to learn anything. It has nowhere to stick. Your brain is just going to dump it. It's going to get weeded away. That's why the most important thing when it comes to learning, one of the most important things when it comes to encoding properly, is to make connections. And this is how it's going to connect back to managing multiple interests. This is the exact reason as to why you want your multiple interests to connect to each other in at least some way. Think about how this actually works in practice. Reading is not about completing a book. Reading fuels idea generation. Reading improves your ability to think, create new knowledge schemas, and formulate objections and counter-arguments. Reading is what teaches you to think, as does writing. Writing and reading are synergistic, going hand in hand. Writing is how you express your thinking. Writing is formalized thinking, and the only way you can have ideas to write about, ideas being the same thing as knowledge, by the way, is by consuming information, which is reading. Lifting weights is not only for improving the physical body, it is what gives your mind a break from the mental gym. When you are reading or writing, you are training your mind to mental failure. The best way to enhance mental recovery is by lifting weights or exercising. Training is a method for cognitive recovery and also idea generation, because the best way to come up with ideas is actually not to force them, but rather let ideas flow without restriction. Training a martial art is a great form of socialization and mental relaxation. It requires and thus trains physical and mental toughness, discipline, and creative thinking. Yes, Jiu-Jitsu is a highly creative sport and form of creative expression. Seeing your friends is another form of socialization, but also relaxation and emotional regulation. It improves your storytelling abilities, which helps improve your writing and develops taste for the books you choose to read and the people you choose to talk to in the first place. Notice how, when done right, your interests can all become nodes in the same integrated network, all connected and thus amplifying one another. What if your interests didn't look scattered like this and they all connected together in some way, shape or form? Or maybe a better way to look like this perhaps. It's not a great model to show you, but can you see how purposeful your interests suddenly become? How they suddenly seem? If your interests connect, they make the web stronger and increase the chances of you being able to manage them all individually, since they all feel relevant and purposeful. Which leads me on to another point. Your interests will feel easier to commit to since you know they all serve each other and some overarching big picture mission you are trying to achieve for yourself, because coherence is what makes something feel purposeful. Here's the deeper science behind why this actually works. The brain organizes information most effectively in the form of chunks. It groups information based on meaning and relationships to other chunks, eventually forming schemas. Every node you add to your web of knowledge strengthens the retrieval cues you have to remember or recall that knowledge. Your brain best learns information through encoding by connecting new information to information you already know. And this applies to literally any interest that you have. Reading fiction or non-fiction, writing articles, content, college essays, lifting weights, marathon training, BJJ, Muay Thai, literally any human relation that you have. If your interests feel scattered or they don't feel very purposeful or just all over the place, it means you haven't mapped out a proper vision or a direction for your life that will make all of those interests feel like they serve that vision. And this is just a bottleneck, which is great because bottlenecks can be solved, and I have a fix for this. Just wait until the end of the video. I know I'm rambling, this is quite a long video, but we'll get there. Our second profound idea is that if you feel behind, you're likely at a different stage of development. The spiral dynamics model views human development in a series of stages. We are all at different levels of development, and each stage has a completely different relationship with the idea of managing multiple interests. Think of it like this. You've probably received advice on how to manage multiple interests in the past that just feels off. Like it doesn't feel right or it wouldn't work for you or your brain. This is due to a mismatch between the stage the advice is designed for and the stage you yourself are currently at. I'm going to go over the 3 stages of spiral dynamics that are relevant to this piece. That's its own complex topic in its own right. I can do a newsletter or a video on that if you'd like. But for now, there are 3 levels that we need to focus on here. We have orange, we have green, and we have yellow. I'm just going to draw it like this because this is just what makes the most sense to me in my brain. So the orange level, which is this one here, is the achievement stage. This level of advice would be just to pick one interest, ignore all other interests, and just monetize that one interest and only focus on making money. Like, it's not necessarily bad advice, but it is somewhat incomplete because it does optimize for output and it does ignore everything else that does make you human, like enjoyment or interest, which is what the green level focus on, which is enjoyment. This would be known as the exploration stage, which compared to the orange level, instead of focusing on money, it would be more focused on just enjoy your interests. Don't try to focus on monetizing your interests. Just do what feels like fun to you, which is really good because it does feel quite liberating at first because you're not really focused on making money, which is, it's okay. It's okay. But then you'll eventually end up with like 1,200 different hobbies, and then they'll all have like absolutely no direction. They'll be going this way and that way and this way, and none of them will actually go to serve a vision that you want, which is not great. You'll just be scattered. You'll be all over the place. You'll have too many multiple interests, which is likely where most people are at if you're watching this video. If you're focusing on having interests and just trying to enjoy them, that is being given to you as coming from this level that just says, oh, just enjoy your interests. But we need to go up to the yellow level, or the yellow stage. This is the integration stage, which is where we are headed. Yes, that is me and you, my friend. This stage focuses on integration and having a system. Because at this level, we are thinking that our interests are integrated and they are systematic. Because each interest, like this very, very poorly drawn image over here, says that each interest serves one another. And every interest in total serves one big vision that's in the center. So this little blue node in the center is going to be our vision. It's our direction. It's what makes all of our interests feel like they are connected and integrated, and they all amplify and serve one another. And this yellow stage or level, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't necessarily reject like the green level or the orange level. It integrates them both. It acknowledges them both. Think of it like this, like you're at the top of a mountain, or maybe you're at the bottom of a mountain. That is you. A little smiley face. If you're at the bottom of a mountain, you haven't yet climbed the mountain, which means you might not be at the skill level as of now at the bottom to be able to achieve what it takes to reach the top, which is here. And maybe because you're at the bottom, you have obstacles in the way. Maybe there's clouds. There's yellow clouds for some reason, because clouds are yellow in this drawing. And because the clouds are in the way, because of where you are at your level of development, you can't see what the summit looks like. So in order to see what the summit looks like, which would be moving up the levels, you need to climb the mountain. You do that, you climb up, you jump, and you learn skills along the way. And suddenly, once you reach the top of the mountain, I'll move this guy over just a little bit. Once you reach the top, maybe you can see past the clouds, or the clouds move away, and you can actually see what the previous level looked like at the bottom, who you looked like or who you were at the previous level of development, which was at the bottom, trying to look up and see what the summit looked like. I hope that makes some sort of sense, but if the just pick one interest level of advice makes you cringe, it's probably because you've likely outgrown that level of advice. And once you recognize your stage of development, you stop forcing yourself into systems that weren't built for you and start building one that is. Here's another profound idea. This problem is not a new problem. I think I have the book there, but in the Republic, Plato envisions the soul as having three parts. He called it the tripartite soul. And Plato's soul, I don't know how I draw a soul. I'll just draw the little stick figure. It had three parts. It had reason, it had appetite, and spirit. These were the three pieces that, when integrated, when connected with each other, all of these formed Plato's definition of a soul. And they were not just three competing forces, but three dimensions of a single life that would need to work together. And when they are in harmony, you flourish. When one dominates, you suffer. Aristotle's concepts of eudaimonia and arete point to the same truth. The good life comes from maximizing your human capacities and not by restricting them. So now the question naturally arises, why aren't you doing the same with your own interests? Trying to integrate them toward living the life you want. We are now going to go over 4 pillars. I would also call them 4 chunks. These are going to be basically how we're going to organize our interests. And don't worry, I'm not going to be giving you a plan for managing your interests based on their mind, body, soul, or business, because everyone kind of does that. AI, ChatGPT will tell you that straight off the bat as well. I want to give you something a little different that not even AI could give you. So you need to anchor your interests by connecting them toward a vision so they can all feel integrated. So we're going to do a small little recap. The AQAL model that we went over in the start, this is telling you why integration. The learning science, which is the schema theory. So we have our webs of knowledge, how to build new knowledge by connecting, by making connections pretty much. This tells you how integration occurs. Then finally, we have spiral dynamics, which I'm going to draw like this. Tells you where you currently are in relation to your interests. I'll leave this on screen now for a second. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Just to kind of recap on what we've kind of navigated so far. This is quite heavy. This is an awful lot of stuff, especially if you're reading the newsletter as well. I got a lot of comments saying that this was really, really good by a lot of people. A lot of you guys seem to really enjoy it, and everyone was taking notes and spending hours looking at this, which is really, really cool. And yeah, but it is a lot. It's a lot. It's just a lot, man. It's a lot to go through. But now for the moment that you have all been waiting for, let's actually build out our system for managing multiple interests now. There are 6 steps in the process, and let's get into it now. Step 1 is to define which interests are signal or noise. Your interests are always trying to tell you something. Think of them like a compass of your very soul. Individually, each interest points in its own direction, but when you put them all together, they converge on a location. I would recommend starting with your childhood interests. What did you love doing before everyone else told you what you should love doing? This connects really well to Jung's concept of individuation, the idea that the self is always trying to actualize, express, or complete itself. Your interests in childhood are the first pieces of data your mind creates that tell you who you are. So I would recommend taking out a pen and paper, or you can use a mind map like I've been doing, or just take out the notes app on your phone and write down everything you can think of under these 2 headings: the interests you had in childhood and the interests you currently have. No judgment, no feeling of embarrassment. This is a safe space. Take about 15 minutes or so, and just remember that you're not committing to this right away, so don't stress about making it concrete or perfect. We will be coming back to this. You will have a lot of ideas to start connecting and working with once you have created your 2 lists. Step 2 is to create your 4 pillars. This is the model we are going to use that will chunk your interests accordingly. I think it's great seeing that your interests actually do have a home, but when they feel so chaotic and all over the place and not integrated toward a vision like we've said, it just doesn't feel like they ever do. So here are the 4 pillars, and we're not going to use mind, body, soul, and purpose or business. We are going to abstract it up a layer instead. We have learning, creation, movement, and value exchange. These are going to be our 4 pillars that we are going to use. So learning is going to be like any type of reading a book, watching a YouTube video. Think of learning as reading, doing courses, doing research for writing, or even having conversations with people, like having social interaction. That's still information that you're consuming into your brain and that you can learn from and build new knowledge with. So I like to think of learning as input, and creation is output that is fueled by your input. So this is going to be the likes of writing, building, creating a product or a newsletter, or it could be like a piece of art. It doesn't have to be for value exchange, which we'll get to in a second. And then movement, which I would put down as, for me, would be lifting and jiu-jitsu, is going to be what fuels both input and output. So this is going to be any sort of physical training or rest. And value exchange is simply where you take your outputs and you share them with the world. And that's meant to be the earth. And that's it. So now what you're going to do, that's basically the model pretty much. That's pretty much what it looks like. And now you are now going to place 2 to 4 interests under each of these pillars. And I'm going to do mine right now. So now I've just filled in what my 4 pillars would look like, and for me right now, I'm learning about learning science, learning how to improve my mind mapping, and integral theory, which is just what's interesting me at the minute. For creation, I have writing my newsletter and creating my products for my audience. If you'd like to see the stuff that I've created, I'll leave a link down below. They're all in the description. You can check them out if you'd like. For movement, I have lifting and also jiu-jitsu, because fuck running. I hate running, so I'd rather just grapple instead. And then for value exchange, I have my newsletter, which is also my video script for my YouTube videos. And then I have my products that are available to my audience if they are interested in buying them. So now you've probably done the same with your own interests. If some of your interests seem to overlap, or if you are unsure of where to put them under what pillar, just pick the pillar that makes the most sense to you when thinking about that interest. This should take you about 10 to 15 minutes tops, and hopefully your interests feel like they have a little bit more structure, less chaos, a little bit more clarity when you think about each of your interests under the appropriate pillar that you have organized them under. Step 3 is to take a guess at your vision. Your vision just needs to exist. It doesn't have to be right, and it doesn't have to be perfect. A vision is like a lighthouse. It's for helping you with navigation, more so than giving you the exact location to reach without exception or room for error or iteration. Fill out this one sentence for me right now. I am building a life where outcome, true, pillars. Use the pillars map that you have just drawn from step 2 to help you define this sentence. Here is an example. I am building a life where I get to be creative for 2 to 4 hours every morning with writing my newsletters, using research as learning, and sharing the things I have created with my audience. This will take you about 10 minutes as well. Try not to get too locked in on trying to make the sentence perfect. I actually struggled with mine. I think I lasted about 15 minutes trying to do this. But don't worry, it's completely okay. Consider this as a first draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be done, because done is better than perfect, because perfect can never be done. Step 4 is to identify your bottlenecks. If any or all of this still feels a bit incoherent to you, this might be why. You might be dealing with any of 3 bottlenecks. 1. Your interests aren't organized. Make sure they are all written down and organized under the appropriate pillar to increase mental clarity. 2. Your vision is too abstract, which means your vision sentence does not connect to your daily habits. Fix this by giving yourself one 90-day outcome to achieve per pillar. 3. Some interests don't serve your vision. Compress, reduce, or reframe them. Ask yourself how these interests could serve your vision. If it doesn't seem to serve your vision, remove it. Reconsider your current vision, or simply see this as a purely entertainment-based interest, which is okay too, but just recognize that it might feel somewhat separate from this system. I believe that thinking about obstacles in terms of bottlenecks is a very efficient way of actually overcoming them, because it gives you the mindset that they can be solved. Because not all obstacles that are holding you back in the second right now are failures on your part necessarily. Sometimes there is literally just one task or one limiting factor that's holding you back. Step 5 is to build a hierarchy of commitments. Most frameworks tell you what to pursue, but not actually how to manage it all on a daily basis. Not all of your interests deserve the same amount of time and effort every single day. Some are daily anchors, some are seasonal. Some fill the space that life leaves open. Your interests themselves should fall into one of 3 tiers. Tier 1 is anchored habits, so these are non-negotiables. These happen no matter what. They are the foundation everything else is built on. For me, that's writing 1 to 2 hours daily and lifting twice a week. These don't get negotiated with, they happen regardless of mood, energy, or schedule. Tier 2 is deadline-driven priorities, what shifts based on the season. These are the tasks that change depending on what you're building or what's due. 1 week, my writing time goes toward my longer newsletter. The next, it goes towards a guide that I'm building. The pillar stays the same, which is creation, but the output shifts based on what the current priority demands. Tier 3 is context-dependent interests, which depends on whenever life allows them. These fill the remaining space based on what the day or week looks like. So usually I'll ask myself tonight, am I seeing my girlfriend, am I training jiu-jitsu, or am I seeing the lads? These type of interests are going to depend on the week, and that's fine. They don't need rigid scheduling, but they do need permission to exist without guilt. In terms of a day-by-day practice, this is what I would recommend. Give yourself 2 to 3 needle-moving tasks per day with 10 to 90 minutes for each task, depending on the task. And if there's one single idea to take from this video or this newsletter, I think it's this one. Every task is defined by an outcome it produces, not an activity. See if you can spot the difference between these 2 examples. Write for 2 hours, or write 2 to 3 short-form posts and 400 to 800 words of my weekly newsletter in 90 minutes. Hopefully you can see the difference. If you fail to hit your daily needle moving tasks, cut all your volume by 50% for that specific pillar. Most people underestimate how little high quality work done consistently is needed to make progress. Constraint is a superpower for creating leverage, especially since you're only doing 2 to 3 tasks a day and not 10. So this is a lot. This was a long video. This was quite a lot to go through as well. So how easy is all of this going to be for you? Here is a profound idea from Carl Jung that I believe is almost a shortcut for helping you create a solid vision. It is also an idea that has been beaten to death online, but fuck it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Just for a single second, I would like for you to think about what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were a child. I also want you to think of 3 to 5 hobbies that used to make time disappear. For me, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to make movies, but I was always too shy and anxious as a kid. And I always loved writing, reading, storytelling, and thinking about ideas from philosophy and psychology, which makes sense. This is pretty much all that my newsletter is. I've called it Profound Ideas for that reason. And in this sense, your own vision very much might already be resting in who you've always been. But you need to look and you need to think deeply about this. Don't feel like your vision needs to be rigid too. It's going to grow and change and evolve as you do, which is a very good thing. Which also means that you can just take a guess. You can just guess as to what you want in the next couple of years or what your vision would look like. You just need to take a guess. Your life will then correct your vision as you live it out, and you will learn what you don't want from life too, which is priceless data for you to reflect on. Step 6 is to exchange your value with other people. This is just my opinion, but I think this domain makes everything else feel worth it. When you share your unique knowledge with the world through one of your pillars, it gives you more motivation to improve them all, since every pillar helps strengthen the rest. Ask yourself what interests, if connected, could form the basis of something you could share with others. A newsletter, a community, a teaching practice, a creative project. Your interests are what you create around, and your vision is what gives them direction. This very newsletter is my vessel for everything that I do. Reading fuels my writing. Lifting and jiu-jitsu and friends fuel my mental recovery. And my newsletter is my vehicle for self-education. Value exchange is what makes the whole system feel sustainable, because your interests start feeling purposeful, which leads me onto another profound idea that I'm going to give you before we finish up this video. The generalist with a clear vision is the new specialist. If you've reached the end of this video, thank you for watching, first of all. And if you have followed along, you now have something that most people have never created, which is a philosophy for how to actually integrate all of your interests, how to manage them all, and how to have them actually serve a goal or a vision that's worthwhile and that you actually want to achieve. You know why integration works, because your brain is built for it. You know where you are in your current level of development and why the old advice felt wrong. And you have a framework, which is everything that we've gone over in this video, for managing your multiple interests across the next couple of years, the next couple of weeks, and every single day. I would like to take a second to apologize because I know this video was quite heavy. There's an awful lot of information in this. So feel free to add this video to your watch later. If you're reading the newsletter, feel free to bookmark it or to save it and come back to it over the course of a week, take notes, think about it, go on walks, whatever you'd like to do. I've gone over the philosophy in this video quite a lot, more like the theory of how to actually go about doing this. If you would like some help with executing on this knowledge, you can check out my profound self-education guide. It more or less gives you the entire philosophy behind this video. And also I have an AI prompt that I made that will help you to create a self-education plan based on your own interests, your own goals, a vision, a life you want to achieve. And it gives you a very detailed, specific plan based on you and your needs and the vision that you want to achieve and the problems that you want to solve. The guide itself is about 70 pages long, which gives you the knowledge, and the AI prompt helps you to execute on that knowledge as efficiently as possible. So if you would like to learn about my self-education and my learning philosophy, you can download my profound self-education guide. If you want to improve your reading comprehension and understand more of what you read in less time, you can check out my guide to profound reading. I'll leave that down below as well. If you are looking to start writing a newsletter like me, if you want to start writing online, I have some writing strategies up on my Substack that helped me grow my audience. I believe I'm at about 29,000 subscribers now in about 10 months, which is just insane to me. But all of those strategies are over on my Substack, and I also have reading and learning guides, which are also strategies there over on my Substack as well. I know your time and attention is very valuable, so thank you for watching, and hopefully I've given you some profound ideas to think about. And I think you're an absolute legend. Have a great day.